Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Joyful Nutrition channel. Since this is my first episode of 2024, I will also say Happy New Year. If you didn't notice, I took about a 2-month break from YouTube. We did some planning, we did some self-reflecting, and after some discussion with my kids and my family, this year we're going to be moving a little slower. I'm probably going to do an episode once a month instead of once a week. It was just getting to be too much with all the family things and all the other commitments. But I realized that I really love YouTube and I see a lot of potential here to help you guys, and hopefully there's a few things you guys can do to help me. So one of those things is like and subscribe whenever I make a video if you actually like it and you want to hear more. And also in my description notes, I do link certain products to Amazon and to different affiliates. That is a way that you can say thank you to me if you follow those links. For Amazon, you don't necessarily have to buy what it is that I recommend, but it does help if you buy something within the next 48 hours through that link, and then I get a little bit of a kickback, and it's just a thank you to me, and it really doesn't cost you anything. You just go to Amazon through the link that I provide in my description notes. So if you've missed me at all in the last few months, don't worry, I'll be showing up right here on the channel, and we'll just see how things go with that. All right, well, with that out of the way, let's get into today's episode. Today, I'm going to be bringing you an in-depth look into one of the most studied and highly acclaimed lifestyle patterns around. And yes, you've probably heard of it. I'm talking about the Mediterranean diet. Now, I have to say, I have been working on switching myself and my family to this way of living over the past year, and honestly, it has been a slow process. Our culture is neck deep in unhealthy habits that are pretty much anywhere and everywhere you go. I'm not sure how we as a nation fell so far off the nutrition wagon when we settled here 250 years ago, but I'm guessing basic survival was part of the problem. Now with industrialization, fast-paced lifestyles, and a general lack of education about what makes our bodies thrive, we have dug ourselves into a hole of unhealthy habits that just keep getting passed on from generation to generation. But I am tired of all that, and I'm going to guess that since you're here, you are too. I truly believe that God created us to be healthy, happy, thriving individuals where sickness and chronic health conditions are not in our life plan. So today, with my background as a registered dietitian, along with the continuous personal research on the topic, I'm bringing you my knowledge of one of the best lifestyle patterns around so that you can begin your journey of living your best life for yourself and your loved ones. And as an added bonus, if you stick around to the end, I'm including one of my favorite meatless entree recipes that you can use tonight if perhaps you don't have dinner planned. So before we get started, I want to give you an opportunity to grab a pen, grab a piece of paper if you're a note taker, because I consider today's episode an educational, but if you're not a note taker, don't worry, you can always rewind and rewatch. Simply put, the Mediterranean diet is a plant-based diet that is patterned by the eating habits of people who lived in countries like Greece, France, Italy, and Spain. It started out as a way of life for people in the Mediterranean regions and became more widely known officially as the Mediterranean diet in the 1960s when researchers, namely Ancel Keys, realized people in the region were living longer and had a better quality of cognitive and health longevity. Since then, it's been well established that people who live lifestyles based on the principles of the Mediterranean diet can enjoy benefits such as lower cancer risk, heart disease, obesity, premature aging, and diabetes. And really the list could go on. And if you notice, these are all things that we're struggling with in America right now. So along with the lower risk of chronic disease, there are also the added benefits of better cognition, longer lifespan, and overall better health span. So what is the difference between health span and lifespan? Simply put, lifespan is how long you live, and health span is how healthy you are at the end of your life. Our goal should be to live long and be mentally and physically healthy throughout our lifespan. Now, before we get into what foods to eat, I will say that the Mediterranean diet is more than just what you put in your mouth. It's also a pattern of lifestyle habits that work together to create a better quality of life and a better overall health as a whole. Some of these habits are things like mild to moderate exercise, specifically after meals, and eating meals with loved ones, or at least with someone you can have positive conversation with. It is actually customary in Mediterranean countries for people to take a walk around their neighborhood after meals, which, whether they realize it or not, is allowing other benefits such as fresh air and sunlight, mood-boosting conversation if done with a friend, and of course it increases valuable movement along the way. Now, if you're saying, Evie, I don't have anyone to walk with, and I live alone, so meals are usually by myself. In those cases, I would suggest investing in some earbuds and listening to your favorite motivational podcast or uplifting music while you walk and while you eat. There's something comforting about hearing another human's voice, even when you're all by yourself, that can increase happy endorphin hormones, especially if the topic is one of humor or of personal interest. So why are all these things important? Well, true health is more than just what your belly receives from your meal. It's also about how your gut and your brain are communicating with each other. Now that's a video in and of itself, but believe it or not, the way you eat and the way you think about eating actually impacts one another. Your body, after all, is a living organism with tiny cells that are constantly communicating about your environment and inputs versus outputs. Anything you think, eat, and say has a direct effect on your overall biology. Basically, be careful what you think, eat, and say because your cells are listening. Long story short, that is why it is so important to intentionally provide your body with a positive environment, healthy conversation, physical exertion in the form of moderate exercise, and yes, healthy whole foods that your body can recognize. All of this is not only going to make you physically healthier, it's going to make you feel good and have more usable energy, which is what we all want at the end of the day. One thing I would like to note is that the Mediterranean diet is not based around specific recipes. So if you are worried that you're not going to be able to cook authentic Greek or Italian food, have no fear. You don't need to be a master chef to meet the requirements. In fact, while anything new can seem overwhelming, once you see the basic patterns to the Mediterranean way of living, you will start to see why it just makes sense. And don't worry, I've got you covered with the basics coming right up. So where do you start if you want to abandon your old, unhealthy eating habits and take on a cleaner, healthier way of living? First, we're going to look at what the Mediterraneans eat. This diet is a plant-based diet made up of a variety of food groups such as fruit, vegetables, whole grains, nuts and seeds, beans and legumes, healthy fats such as avocado and olive oil, eggs, herbs and spices, moderate amounts of fish and poultry, and small amounts of red wine and dairy are also included. Things that should be avoided are red meat and any food that's processed such as white flour and refined sugar. One of the main differences in the Mediterranean diet that has changed from what we were taught a decade or so ago is that this diet is actually high in fat, although it's mostly high in unsaturated fat like the kind you find in olive oil. Instead of this hurting your heart, research has found that a diet high in unsaturated fat is associated with many health benefits, such as lower risk of heart disease, lower cancer rates, lower incidence of chronic inflammation, better cognitive health, and overall better longevity in lifespan. Fun fact, did you know that your brain is made up of about 60% fat? Now, where do you think your brain is going to get that fat, which is necessary for all your body functions? You guessed it, you get it from your diet. So for those of us who want to live longer, have more energy, and look our best along the way, this diet is going to help us accomplish all of those things. So now I'm sure you're starting to see why this lifestyle pattern has been hailed as one of the best there is for the last decade, including this year. So just to review what we've talked about so far to put things in a more digestible way, the Mediterranean diet is actually a lifestyle pattern that includes foods such as fruits, vegetables, whole grains, nuts and seeds, beans and legumes, healthy fats such as olive oil and avocado oil, eggs, herbs and spices, moderate fish, and moderate poultry. Dairy is used mainly in the form of Greek yogurt, cheese, and occasionally butter. Red meat is typically avoided, and if it's used more as a flavoring agent than a main entree. An example of this would be a ham bone in a bean stew rather than eating the ham by itself. Red wine is also used in moderation, but this can be controversial given some research suggests that the alcohol in wine is not beneficial even in small amounts. However, red grapes contain a polyphenol which acts as an antioxidant in the body that has protective qualities such as cancer-preventing, anti-inflammatory, and anti-aging properties. So depending on region and culture, red wine may or may not be used, but the good news is red grapes are available to all in their original form, making an excellent finger food snack. Foods such as white flour and refined sugar should be avoided entirely. One thing I will note about this diet is that meat is not served at every meal. So finding recipes that are hearty and healthy without adding the meat is a great choice in order to give your body some time to heal and reduce hidden inflammation. And speaking of a hearty and healthy recipe that doesn't require meat, I want to leave you with a recipe that you can start using immediately that is nutrient dense, very tasty, and easy to make. This just so happens to not be a Greek, Italian, or Spanish recipe, which, like I said earlier, is not required to eat the Mediterranean way. This is a plant-based Mexican-style dish that incorporates a ton of flavor, whole grains, vegetables, and also has protein without the meat component. So stay tuned and get ready for your dinner plans to be made for you. Next episode is going to highlight 4 helpful tips to help you start the Mediterranean diet, including some great beverage options for the upcoming summer months. They are coming, Lord willing. Thank you so much for stopping by. Until next time, I hope you have a joyful and blessed day.